Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners Fall 2024 Investor Conference. My name is Adam Lowensteiner, Vice President of Lytham Partners. Before we begin, for those not familiar, Lytham Partners is one of the country's leading investor relations firms. With more than 2 decades of corporate access experience, we have built one of the industry's most diverse and effective platforms for connecting small-cap companies with high-quality and focused institutional investors, while creating a framework of best practices in all aspects of investor relations. Today's discussion is hopefully yet another example where we can bring value to multiple constituents. Our next presentation comes from Myriad Uranium, a ticker symbol of M, that is M for Mike, on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and MYRUF, that's Mike, Yankee, Romeo, Uniform, and Foxtrot, on the OTCQB in the US. Presenting from the company today is its Chief Executive Officer and Director, Tom Lamb. Today, Tom will deliver a brief presentation, and I will then engage in a fireside chat-like Q&A session with Tom. We will dive into the discussion in a moment. One final item. I want to remind everyone that Myriad Uranium is available for one-on-one meetings. If you have not already signed up, please send me an email at lowensteiner@lythampartners.com or visit lythampartners.com/virtual. From there, you could click on the sign up for one-on-one meetings and proceed to register and make your one-on-one selections. With that said, let me now turn today's discussion with Tom Lamb, CEO and board member of Myriad Uranium. Welcome, Tom. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thanks, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm really excited to present Myriad Uranium to you. Uranium is a hot topic these days. I think many of you probably understand that if you've been following the news, but if you haven't, I'll explain why it's the most exciting commodity right now. The price has risen from about $30 a pound to currently $80 a pound over the last 2 years. So if you're not already into uranium, please take a look, and I'll explain a little bit why, but you'll want to dive a bit deeper. So as you can see, Myriad is advancing the Copper Mountain Uranium Project in Wyoming. It's called Copper Mountain because of the color of the mountain in the background. And there's a lot of mining around Copper Mountain, a lot of historic mining. I need to show you this disclaimer page for legal reasons. The reason is that I'll be talking about uranium grades, pounds of uranium, pardon me. And these numbers are historical under securities law. They're not current. That's because Union Pacific Railway in the 1970s did most of the work relating to these pounds and grades of uranium. And that's so many years ago that we have to call that historical information rather than current information. So Myriad Uranium Corp, it's a Canadian company listed again on the OTC and the CSE, but our project is in Wyoming. I'll just give you the summary points regarding the company. 50 million shares outstanding, big insider ownership, including yours truly. I'm a big investor in the company. I've put a lot of my own money into it, hundreds of thousands of dollars at 20 cents or higher. I participate in every financing, and I'm a big believer in it. So we hold a 75% earnable interest in the Copper Mountain Uranium Project. That means that when we spend $5.5 million Canadian, we will own 75% of the Copper Mountain Project. We do have a path to 100% as part of the deal. Copper Mountain is very interesting. I'm excited to, look forward to telling you about the history of the project and how we got into it. But I'll just give you the big broad strokes of it, which is that $117 million Canadian, so maybe roughly 78 million US in today's dollars, was spent advancing the Copper Mountain Project. And that was spent by Union Pacific Railway in the 1970s. And they drilled 2,000 boreholes approximately and discovered 7 uranium deposits. And they estimated a large historical resource at Copper Mountain. And they also determined that the project area has really big exploration upside. And that means we already know there's a lot of uranium there, but there's the opportunity to find a lot more uranium and potentially significant deposits of other minerals. So even though it was a long time ago, one of the lead geologists, in fact, the director of all the exploration that Union Pacific conducted in the late 1970s, is still alive. His name is Jim Davis, and he is on our technical committee. And he's very excited to be part of our group. And I'll explain why this is so interesting. Union Pacific Railway explored the project in the 1970s, and then nobody had consolidated ownership over the project area until just now, in the last 18 months or so. Our company and our deal partner now more or less have the entire project area. He's excited about that because that will enable us to advance this project. Now, there was a company in 2007 that held part of our project area. The company is called Strathmore, and it rose to a Canadian dollar 457 million market cap, partly based on this asset that we have. This just shows you, take a look at our market cap. It's currently around 15 million Canadian, that we have a long way to go. And that is why we have attracted virtually almost all smart money, institutional money, funds, high net worth offices, and sophisticated uranium investors into our cap table. So we have a really interesting cap table. I'll get into that later. So again, we are a small market cap company for the moment. Very exciting project with a very good cap table full of smart money. So what's going on here? I mentioned that uranium has risen from $30 a pound to $80 a pound over the last 2 years. And the reason is, and I'm just going to skip over this summary slide because I've already mentioned a few things. The reason is geopolitics has changed. Everybody has realized that since the Fukushima accident, I believe that was 2010, nobody has been looking for uranium. So all these uranium mines are running out of uranium. And there are no new uranium mines that have been coming on stream over the last 14 years. And yet the demand for uranium keeps growing and growing. Also very interesting, in the United States, there's very little uranium production. The US consumes 40 to 50 million pounds of uranium every year, but produces virtually none. A year and a half ago, it was 180,000 pounds. And more recently, 2 million pounds, but still, it's another 48 million pounds to go. Geopolitics, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, China, all these things I can get into a little bit later in our conversation. So all this is to say there's a big supply deficit in uranium, and the US has a massive supply deficit in terms of domestic production versus its domestic consumption. So what about Myriad and our Wyoming project? Copper Mountain Uranium Project is nearly in the center of Wyoming. Wyoming is the most important uranium jurisdiction in the United States, one of the most important in the world. You can see where we're located on the map. And we're surrounded by, especially to the east, the most important companies in the uranium sector globally: Cameco, Energy, UEC, and Peninsula. So there are a few that are missing: Orano, which is French, and Kazatomprom, which of course focused on Kazakhstan. This is a Copper Mountain timeline, but I think I'll save discussion of this till a little bit later when we have our more of a conversation about the history of Copper Mountain. For the moment, I just want to direct you to the map of Copper Mountain. This is what our public-facing project area looks like. For strategic reasons, we don't discuss other things we're doing because uranium is hot right now, but we do have more than is disclosed here. But we do have the key areas. You can see the dots in yellow are historic uranium deposits delineated by Union Pacific Railway in the 1970s. And in fact, and this is what's really interesting, is especially interesting, is Union Pacific had planned a large-scale uranium mine for our project. Again, that's why they spent $117 million, drilled 2,000 holes. They were going to fuel the Edison reactors that were planned for California in the 1980s. That all got halted, as I'll get into more detail a little bit later. 1979, the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant had an accident. It's quite famous. That halted uranium production. In fact, the nuclear sector froze starting about 1980 in the United States. And that's why our project did not become a uranium mine. If it hadn't been for that, our project would probably be an operating uranium mine today. That's why the smart money has invested in us. They know the history of the project and its potential. You can see on the slide here, this is one of a number of examples of Union Pacific's mine plan for our project. It had a 6-pit mine plan, and again, it got cut off in the late 1970s with the 3 Mile Island accident. With all their work, Union Pacific estimated for their mine planning purposes that our project has between 15 and 30 million pounds of uranium for the initial mine plan they had. And the potential, you can almost call this an exploration target based on the 2,000 drill holes or boreholes of over 65 million pounds of uranium. That would make us one of the largest, if not the largest, uranium project in Wyoming. It's very exciting, and it's especially exciting for just a little company like ours, 15 million market cap Canadian. So we believe we're an orphan. When people start to realize that we are a small company with a really large historical resource, we think there's order of magnitude market cap adjustments possible. And that's why investors that understand us, that's why they're in. I'm going to skip ahead, just tell you that we have a lot of historical data that's guided us. There's some exciting things about the geology that we're going to go, it's going to enable us to go, we think, significantly beyond what Union Pacific understood in the 1970s. They never drilled deeper into these red zones that you see here. And we are. So we have a chance to pick up high-grade uranium and hopefully go significantly beyond what Union Pacific discovered. We have a drill program coming up. I'll let you all download the PowerPoint, or we can get into it in a few minutes during conversation. But we have a drill program starting, and by the time you see this, you may it may be, in fact, be in process. Just want to say that and repeat, there's massive discovery potential for even, we're not supposed to take it this far, but Athabasca-like discoveries. Athabasca is the big uranium district in Canada that has the highest grades in the world. Our plan is to drill. We're currently raising money to drill, and drilling is going to happen until about mid-November this year. And that will help us start to bring some of the historic resources current under 43-101. There's a lot of catalysts coming up, drilling. We have incredible people that have joined the team, big investors, and some of the other catalysts coming up. We'll talk about supply and demand again in a minute, I think, but it's a very exciting situation for uranium. There's just simply no supply coming on stream that can satisfy projected demand. Again, big supply gap in the United States, and the US on a bipartisan basis wants to bridge that gap. Money is pouring into the sector and into Wyoming. Geopolitics, 43% of the world's uranium comes from Kazakhstan. China and Russia are squeezing that, making life very interesting for the West and Western utilities that rely on imported uranium. Uranium prices moving up. Talk about that in a minute. Just want to give you the corporate overview. 50 million shares outstanding. We have warrants outstanding 30 to 40 cents generally. The last thing I'll talk about is our amazing team. George Fundervalt, our chief geologist, is a top-notch uranium geologist. He's leading our exploration. Nelson Lam, our CFO from Pricewaterhouse, etc. Not related. New to our board, Marvin Singer, 40 years, senior partner at one of the world's leading law firms, just retired, has joined our board. Ian Archibald was a managing director at Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. That's one of the big investors in North America and globally. Very lucky to have him. And a number of other phenomenal directors, Tom Lee, Simon Clark, Fred Bonner, and our technical committee is also very strong. So we're an exciting small market cap company with a big cap table full of sophisticated groups, funds, Swiss Uranium Fund, Stephen Detel's, who's indirectly an owner of Traxys, big commodity trader globally, et cetera. A lot of other smart money. So Adam, with that, I'd be happy to start discussing the company.
Sure, great. Thanks, Tom, for that overview on Myriad Uranium. So let's now expand a little bit on a few topics here. Maybe to start the conversation, can you tell us something about yourself, your background a little bit, and how did you find Myriad Uranium?
Sure. I was a corporate lawyer as a young man. That's how I started, and did a lot of resource work. I became entrepreneurial. I started a gold mining company with a friend from childhood who was a really smart engineer. And we got a little bit lucky and worked really hard. 2005 to 2010, we built this company and had a very nice IPO. 2010, it was a gold producer in Mexico called Gold Group. So there I was. I'd had some luck and learned the business. I moved to London, moved to Moscow, Russia. I was on the board of Russia's second largest gold producer, a really, really significant company. But by 2014, of course, geopolitics, Russia had gone into Crimea. That ended, and I started a project generator in East Africa with a partner who was a banker from London, PhD mining engineer, and a few others. One of the companies became M2 Cobalt, which we sold after a few years. We sold to an offshoot of Glencore. People who know mining know Glencore. This offshoot, made up of leaders from Glencore, was called Gerbois Global. Cobalt focused. I became an executive for them and became, over all these years, a bit of an Africa expert. And that's how I ended up. Well, that's my professional background and some other deals in the mining space along the way. Fair amount of luck, quite a bit of hard work and focus too. There I was, an Africa-focused person, and Myriad, before Wyoming, actually had fantastic exploration projects in Niger and West Africa, which is one of the big uranium producers. We were next to the world's second largest uranium deposit on structure, just down the street from Dasa, which is the big project globally that's going to turn into the next uranium mine. But there was a military coup a year ago. We pivoted to, the company pivoted to Wyoming. I was asked to come on because I speak French. Niger is a French-speaking country, and I understand Africa. And I came on as a consultant and ended up quite naturally becoming CEO. So it's a bit of my professional background. I have a finance master's from London Business School in London, and I've done some other things that people can look up on LinkedIn. Yeah.
When and why did Union Pacific abandon Copper Mountain? And can you give a little history how Myriad was able to get involved?
Yeah, this is a great story. First of all, our project area is a brownfield area. It had Cold War uranium mines on it, the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. Arrowhead Mine in the center of our project area produced 500,000 pounds at 0.15%, for those of you who like hearing these things. And there's a Bonanza Mine also in our project area, produced 780,000 pounds at 1.3%. These are significant mines for the time. Those are good grades. And so it's already a brownfield site. Union Pacific Railway came along. Those of you who are in the States and know about how railways have mining rights near their railway lines, help them, encourage them push west. They had all this area in the 1970s, and they knew it was very uranium rich, past production, and they just started plowing money into it and coming up aces. So Union Pacific knew, and they had, because of the way the system worked in the 1970s, they were going to be producing uranium from Copper Mountain for the Edison reactors that were planned for California. During the 1970s, the US had planned to build a lot of, this is my understanding, Edison reactors, California, to power California. But 1979, 3 Mile Island accident. The Edison reactors those ideas were put on the shelf to build those. Uranium price fell dramatically, and our project and every other project in the United States virtually became, we're just frozen, really. And that's what happened. So Union Pacific eventually walked away in 1982. The world had turned away from nuclear, and Union Pacific gave the project back to the ranchers and the federal government, state government. There were a few groups after that, 1996, 97, uranium price spiked briefly. Anaconda, that's ARCO, they came in, they did some work, but the uranium price went back down and they walked away. 2006, 2007, Strathmore, and then also Neutron Energy, which is now Encore, which is a big, well-known company. They each own part of our project area, but they could never unify ownership. We have their internal memos. They tried to, especially Encore, Neutron, had in mind to acquire consolidate ownership. But before they could do that, there was Fukushima accident, and prices dropped. People turned away from nuclear again. Now we've come along with our partners, Rush Rare Metals, who are the optionors of the project, and we partnered, and we control all the important areas virtually. There are a couple exceptions, but that's just how it is. We have most of the most important areas, and then all sorts of exciting additional areas that the public will learn about in due course. And so we managed to consolidate it. This is initially Rush Rare Metals that did that, and then we've optioned. So that's how it's come about. Rush acquired the core claims in the center of what was going to be Union Pacific's pit a few years ago, when nobody cared about uranium. One of the key shareholders really encouraged the CEO of Rush, Pete Smith, to acquire these licenses. He did it somewhat reluctantly or with hesitation. But 3 months later, after they acquired the licenses, uranium did start to run. This was one of the key shareholders that had encouraged the acquisition, and they were off to the races. Then Myriad, after there was a military coup in Niger about a year ago, had to pivot, and we know Rush very well. Copper Mountain was its second project. Its first is Boxy in Quebec, and we negotiated a really good win-win deal where we could take it on and raise money and explore it about a year ago, and very exciting situation. So we're working together to advance the project. There's another story. I know that we're a little bit. I don't want to take up too much time, but when we did the deal, we didn't fully understand the project. So there wasn't a lot of data. When we signed the letter of intent, we contemporaneously, the CEO of Rush acquired a big trove of historic data relating to Copper Mountain. It revealed all these things that I've just told you about: the massive spend by Union Pacific, the 15 to 30 million pounds estimated for their mine plan, the 65 million pounds plus potential of the deposits and the prospects, the 2,000 drill holes, etc. So, the sequence of events, there's a little bit of luck involved, a bit of skill. It's all fallen into place just as uranium is just starting to really go. And so that's a bit of the history of the project.
So I know you have some data on the property, but what else needs to be done to prove out the uranium reserves on the Copper Mountain site?
Yeah, the data we have, we're lucky we have drill data regarding the key, especially the key area, the center of the high-grade center of the key pit that Union Pacific had planned. But we don't have the lab certificates regarding that data. We do have the drill data itself and the intercept data. So we have to re-drill that area. We're starting that very soon. And then we are going to have to drill the entire project. Not sure about the density, because there is so much historical knowledge of the historical work. We're going to have to drill, but we may not have to drill as much as they did in the past to bring up the pounds to a current estimate. So it involves drilling. We'll be doing geophysics. We'll be doing some other work, mapping, geochemistry, but it's going to involve drilling. And I'm not sure how many holes yet. We're discussing that actively.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned uranium prices. How sensitive will your story be to the fluctuation in uranium prices? Maybe discuss why they're at elevated levels and probably could stay here for a long time given geopolitical issues. But also the need for nuclear energy and given zero carbon output goals that many countries have.
Yeah, there is no answer to climate change and zero emissions without nuclear. Everybody's agreed on that. So if you want to achieve zero carbon, you have to ramp up nuclear. China is building reactors as fast as possibly can. If you're not in the United States, you're in most other places, all you hear about is reactors being built. US is trying to get some more built, and you're going to get small modular reactors. Microsoft and I think it's Constellation just today announced that the 3 Mile Island that we've talked about, 3 Mile Island nuclear facility is going to be reactivated, and it's going to be powering Microsoft AI and data centers. That is going to be the point of the 3 Mile Island reactor, and that is coming. Amazon, Google, everybody else is going to be, they are going to be linking up with nuclear reactors, and it's coming. This big baseload power. And the reason why the price has risen is because demand has risen. Civil stockpiles over the last 10, 12 years have been eroded, and they're gone now. All you have is China's stockpile for its future needs. Civil stockpiles are gone. Megatons to megawatts, which is downblending nuclear weapons. That's finished. Everybody's looking around. Where are we going to get the uranium? Prices rising. Cantor Fitzgerald, your bank there, has just announced their price target for the end of this year. There's not many months left in this year. Current price $80. They estimate $110 a pound by the end of the year, and 120, 130 next year. Prices rising. There simply is no supply. There are no new mines that are coming on since Fukushima in 2010. That is the fundamental problem. Add geopolitics. Kazakhstan is getting squeezed by China and Russia. 43% of the world's production. Western companies have joint ventures with Kazakhstan, but they're going to get squeezed. They already are. The Russian security services have sort of gone into Kazatomprom and are going to start making it more difficult for the West to get uranium from there. Very interesting time. The US government, full of smart people, are onto this. They've been onto this for a while, bipartisan basis. They've kind of put politics aside, bipartisan basis. The US is investing heavily in uranium and nuclear right now. Wyoming is the place to be. So those of us who are in it, we understand it. We can see it. It's a little bit hard to see from the outside, but the excitement, the money is pouring in. So if you're in the United States, you're going to produce uranium. You're in Wyoming, especially the historic center of uranium production. Very exciting. So anyway, that's a bit of some comments around the uranium price. Very limited supply growth, but big demand growth.
I know this next question might be a little sensitive, and it might not even be per se relevant for investors just yet. But how soon can the company get uranium out of the site, and what kind of access and infrastructure is now on the site, and what might be needed?
I'm currently in a small motel in Riverton. It's in the center of Wyoming. If I drive north on a highway for half an hour, I get to a nice gravel road. I turn right. Half an hour on that gravel road, you're at Copper Mountain. So that's access.
Okay.
There's power lines nearby. We have 5G connectivity, and there's lots of historic. It's a brownfield site, so we believe that permitting will be easier for that reason. Wyoming is mining friendly. They've been permitting mines lately. We don't have archaeological issues. It wasn't an active site for Indians, for example, and also we don't have wildlife issues as far as we know. We've had surveys of both conducted. Never any guarantees with these things, but we've got our drill permits and everything after archaeological and wildlife surveys. Production. What's likely to happen is we'll do what we call small scale production or bulk sampling. which is small scale production. That will probably happen first in high grade zones. That can happen quickly because the permitting process is less onerous and less detailed. How quickly, it's hard to say. We need to get through this drilling that's coming up over the next month and a half to 2 months. And then we'll have to do quite a bit of drilling next spring and summer and analyze that drilling. Then we can get back to people. But it's unlike in Canada, in the northern Saskatchewan, where it's a long process to get a mine permitted. We're looking at let's call it several years to get to bulk sampling, and then a full scale mine depends on the size of the mine, and depends what kind of concentrating we want to do. Concentrating before the concentrate goes off to the mill. Do we want to double the grade? That will adjust permitting times, because you have to permit that facility also. But it's several years, I would say. But it's not as it's a lot faster than most other places, nearly everywhere else. So we're in kind of a really good spot, and that's why we've attracted smart uranium money to this company. They see that we could be producing a lot faster than a lot of other companies.
So you just mentioned about the drilling. Can you just discuss some key catalysts? I'm assuming data from that drilling, but any other key catalysts that investors should be on the lookout for in coming quarters?
Yeah, well, I want to put myself in the position of investors and the public. What do we look like? We're one of a number of companies out there that have historic data. We also, beyond what they have, is a lot of historic production. But it's still in the misty past. This is 40 years ago plus. And I think a big catalyst will be making this real by actually drilling current holes and intercepting significant uranium and being able to tell the public about that. That's going to happen very quickly. We have the probes will go down the holes right after the drill holes are drilled. So people may have news, within a matter of weeks here, that we have drilled holes, we've probed them, and that we have significant uranium down the holes. It's a couple months. It'll be a couple months before the chemistry comes back. We also send the rock to the lab so we can get exact grade information, but we get quite accurate grade information from the probes. That's a catalyst. Please take a look, everybody, at the bench strength that we've got. Our board is very strong. Our technical advisory board is very strong. We're going to be adding to that. That's catalyst. We've got great investors. Some of that is public information. Take a look. We're going to be adding more. We've got more funds coming in from well-known investors. Those are catalysts. And we have an ambitious plan that we're developing for next spring and summer as we tell the world about that catalyst. Plus, we have more news coming regarding what we've learned about the project just recently in the last month or two with geophysics and historic work that we've analyzed, and be telling the world about that, and that's exciting. So those are some of the catalysts. Plus, there's always potential for M&A. Plus, we have really good historic data package that's going to enable us to acquire very high prospect areas with very high prospectivity in our area. That's exciting too. Yeah, lots of catalysts coming. Yeah.
Great. One final question here. Anything else you want to add to the discussion before we conclude?
Well, this is a bit more just if you're interested in following companies, please put us on your ticker, even if you're not investing. If you want to invest, please contact me, or talk to Adam or somebody, because we'd be delighted to have you as an investor. But if you're not going to invest, please put us on your ticker and follow us at our news releases. Watch, because our group, if you look at our bios, myself, our team, we typically work for bigger companies that are far more advanced. There's a reason why and our investors too, a lot of our investors have come down from their market cap minimums, 100 million market cap or larger. They've invested in our little company, and there's a reason we are all involved, and that I'm investing my own money, and others are investing significant money in this small company. There's a reason, and it's because it's going to be very interesting. So if you just want to watch a company develop, watch a management team build a company, turn it into a significant company in the space. I think it's really interesting to watch that progression, and I invite your viewers to watch us, because it's that's going to, our plan is to do that. So we think it's going to happen, and it's really exciting to watch, even if you're not an investor. But of course, we'd be delighted to have you as investors also.
Great. Thank you, Tom, very much for your time today. We greatly appreciate it. To anyone out there that has not already signed up for a one-on-one, again, please feel free to send me an email at lowensteiner@lythampartners.com, or visit lythampartners.com/virtual and click the sign up for one-on-one meetings button to register. We hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference and have a great day. Thanks again, Tom.
Thank you, Adam.